So, Shella Finkel, Deontay Wilder's manager, has come out in an interview here. You can take a look at it. It's erupts over Eddie Hearn over a scam job regarding the Joshua Wilder fight. Now, I'm just going to go over a couple of details on this here, and we're just going to analyze it and just see exactly what Finkel's points are. This is Shella Finkel, co-manager of the WBC. Deontay Wilder has fired verbal bombs at the direction of Joshua and Eddie Hearn of Matchroom. He said he hates how the fighter has been portrayed over the media by Joshua and his team. The two sides went deep in negotiations for several months to make the fight. A few weeks ago, those discussions crumbled, and now it appears that Joshua will face his WBA mandatory challenger Alexander Povetkin for September 22nd in Wembley. Now we're just going to go a little bit into a couple of the details. Now, these are the words that were said exactly by Shella Finkel, so just stay with me. So it says it was a total scam. They had no intention of fighting Deontay Wilder next, and that's fine. Just say it. Don't waste everyone's time. Don't try and make Deontay look like the guy ducking out of a fight or anything. Just say, I want to fight Povetkin next, and I'm not fighting anyone else after that. I can fight. He admits that it was a total scam here. He had a 2-fight deal with Wembley. Alright, so we're just going to take a look here quickly what he says. He said it was a total scam and said just say it. Well, anyways, that's fine. He says Deontay was in the... I don't believe any of these fighters are ducking the fight. I just believe that there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of things going back and forth here. But then he goes ahead and says that he had a 2-fight deal with Wembley. The 2-fight deal with Wembley was only announced, I believe, a week ago. So for him to say he had a 2-fight deal, initially they were trying to make the fight in Wembley for September. That was when the 12.5 million offer was made. Now, between then, that was initially when the Canelo-Golovkin fight wasn't going to happen. Now, when the Canelo-Golovkin fight got confirmed, in order for this fight to be made, for them to make a lot of money in the US, pay-per-view could not be back-to-back. I believe the Canelo fight was scheduled for September 15th. So it would not make sense financially for them to have two pay-per-views in the same month, and especially if they were back-to-back. So it's kind of like you taking yourself as an average boxing fan, right? Are you going to, or as an average person, would you go on 2 expensive dinner dates back-to-back? When I mean expensive, I mean where you're buying bottles and you're buying different things. So would you do that? So that's where this doesn't make sense. That's why the fight could not be made in Wembley. And so the fight needed to be taken to Cardiff either in September or October. I mean, October or November, right? But that's the point about there. So it says initially Wilder offered Joshua a guarantee of 50 million to fight in the United States. Now, come back to this, because here, firstly, this was never a guarantee of 50 million. They said they were going to guarantee them 50 million, but we have to remember there that when Hearn's team required that they meet for talks regarding the contract, Wilder's team said no, right? It says, oh yeah, it is. It says Wilder's manager to her, it says, accept and we'll send proof, we'll send a contract. So you cannot accept something. I mean, what if in the contract it says you have to open your ass out and open it out to the wind? You cannot accept something you cannot see. Joshua here, there's a difference between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is more of a global superstar. He has rights. He has deals with different broadcasters, different sponsors. So if anything that's across those 50 million had to have him wearing Everlast gloves, or had to have him wearing Nike's pants or something like that, then that contradicts the whole thing, doesn't it? Or maybe the fight could only be done on Showtime or something like that, you know? And that's, by the way, so that's why you cannot say, oh, accept the 50 million without seeing a a contract. And you have to remember that this 50 million that they put out was initially only a 24-hour time frame. So I've never seen anything so bizarre in my life. You know, you give someone an offer for 50 million. It's kind of like a scam, isn't it? Or like, hey, you know, 50 million, you have 24 hours to accept. You don't need to see any contract. Well, you know, but just trust us, we're going to have the money. It's kind of like someone telling you that you're going to sell your house to you, but don't worry, just move out the house. We're not going to show you that we have the money. We're not going to show you a contract. Just move out of your house first. Say that you accept the offer, move out of your house, and then we'll send you a contract. So, you know, if they're coming from there, it makes absolutely no sense. But we'll go on. It says they offer up to 12 million. So 12 million was the initial offer that was made by Team Joshua, and now they upped it to 15 million. And you have to remember, this 12 million is right around. So while this best pay purse was 2 million, 2.1 million, so it's roughly about 5 times more. So it says they said it will be the next fight and there will be a rematch clause. So we said we accept, send the contract. Then the contract comes and it has no date for the fight, no arena for the fight. The rematch clause says if he loses, we redo the fight. If he wins, he doesn't have to fight again. So now we're going to go into this statement here. It says that they said it will be the next fight and there will be a rematch clause. So they accept and send the contract. Then the contract comes at no date. When this fight was sent for 50 million, right? When Shelly Finkel was asked about where the fight will be taking place, Shelly Finkel actually said that the fight will either take place in Las Vegas or New York. So they weren't sure, and they actually said that they were scheduling this fight for December. So when they say, oh, there wasn't a date, you didn't have a date on your contract either. Well, you didn't even send a contract, but you had no date. When he was asked about it, he said it was either scheduled for December. So for him to come out here and say, oh, you know what, that it has no date or venue, your contract didn't have a date or venue either. But that's, by the way, because you did say here that you accepted the contract, so that's fine. So he says, I wrote to him and asked to clarify where this fight is coming from. He never answers, and he sends back, I'll supply you the dates. I will have it to you by Friday. And I believe this Friday was July, let's see, 2 days later, and this Friday was June 29th. So that's what he's referencing to. So he says 2 days later on Sunday, June 25th, I sent them a letter acknowledging Eddie's email, telling them that we would have a contract sent by June 29th. Since the contract did not state the date of venue, he asked for information about that. So now this is where it gets sticky, and this is where this man starts to act smart. So June 29th, he says that they'll have the contract sent by Friday. Now, the Friday, prior to that Friday, he already knew what these 2 points were. He already knew what the issue was with the contract, because he went on an interview on ESPN and he started saying that, oh, they didn't agree to a couple of things regarding the date and fight. So why didn't you send it? If you already knew the 2 points, why didn't you send it prior to Friday? He says we wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything else. That's what his point is. But you already knew the 2 points because you went out and you said it on the interview. But, you know, let's just assume what he's saying there is correct. So it says that the negotiations fell apart when the WBA sent a letter and gave Joshua only a 24-hour period to reach an agreement with Povetkin. Finkel believes that the entire scenario was orchestrated by Hearn with the WBA. Now, I don't understand this, because it's actually clear here that it says this was an article around April. It says that there was an agreement to fend, or that purse bids was scheduled for May 4th. So he knew, and Hearn actually came on different interviews saying that there was pressure coming from the WBA. They needed to make sure that this contract was signed. I remember different interviews saying, you know what, we're on a time restraint by the WBA, a contract needs to be signed. The WBA waited about 2 months for a contract to be signed. Now everyone keeps saying that why wasn't an exception given for the WBA mandatory with Povetkin. Now an exception can be given if there's actually a contract that's signed by both parties for unification. So yeah, you're right, a unification stomps a mandatory, but only if the unification fight has been signed. In this case, it was never signed, right? So he says, we were never told the WBA was pressing me. That's a lie. You've got to give me an answer. So if you want a deal done, you don't say, hey Shirley. You say, hey Shirley, I can't wait until Friday. I gotta have it back by Monday late, or I'm going to lose the WBA. So he gets Gilberto Mendoza to send a letter that you got to tell us by tomorrow. That's kind of stupid and very silly for him to say that. But anyways, he never said, hey Shirley, I've only got 24 hours. If you really want the fight to get to me, he never said, look, we can do September 22nd. Yeah, you could do September 22nd before the Canelo fight was happening. Now, the September 22nd fight against Povetkin is in the UK. So that doesn't have any impact on US TV, as the fight would not be pay-per-view on US TV. I believe it will be on Showtime. It probably is free. I don't know whatever the deal is. But I know that's not pay-per-view in the US. That September 22nd is for the US, is for the UK TV. So that doesn't have any impact on US TV. So when he says September 22nd, he did tell you that they were trying to make the fight for September 22nd. But as a result of them not responding earlier, that happened. So he never said you had a right to a two-match thing, but they would want to have it be at Wembley. None of that. He didn't want the fight. Have a little balls and just say that we are not ducking Wilder. This is what we feel is the best interest of Joshua. We'll make an offer to fight Wilder in April 13th, Wembley Stadium. So obviously the contract is still on. They can still choose to make the fight in April 13th. As what he says, it says we would have said no, here's what we want. So obviously they could still agree for April 13th, but there's just one sticky point I really want to say here. There was an article that was made, let me see, when was this date? It was published on June 12th, right? And it says, this was Wilder saying that he agreed to fight Joshua next in the UK. If he prefers to fight in the UK, the ball is in your court. It's up to them to choose. Wilder's manager says, we have agreed to all the terms, that Eddie Hearn has put together for our fight. Deontay has sent an email to Joshua and said, want to buy Hearn, and Eddie telling them they will officially accept the offer that they gave to us and send us the contract. So they accepted the offer, but they never signed the contract because there are two sticky points. Those two sticky points, rather than them putting in an email and sending it to them, they go on TV, ask and put it on there, and then say, oh, you know what, we'll get back to you on those two sticky points 5 days later, when they already knew what it was. So you see where there's a little problem there. But anyways, that's just what Shirley Finkel is saying, that Hearn's team is a scam or whatever it is. Honestly, this year is just a situation where both parties are trying to win the public opinion. Both parties are trying to look more valid in the eyes of the public. And that's pretty much what it is here. We all know Wilder is going to fight Brazil next, who was Joshua's 16th to 17th fight as a voluntary defense, right? But that's who Deontay Wilder is going to be fighting in his 41st or 42nd fight. So anyways, make of that what you want. This is what Wilder this is what Wilder's manager Finkel had to say. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Hearn's a scam? Do you think Finkel's a scam? Do you think Joshua's a scam? Do you think both fighters want the fight? Do you think both fighters are avoiding each other? Leave it all in the comment section. Subscribe and give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, whichever you prefer. It's MC Boxing. I'm out.